culture is actually damn good.
We're not urinating on the fire.
You can stop asking that question. I'm going to be calling the defense.
What I talked to Russell about is none of your business.
In this year's owners' meetings, not much has changed in the NFL landscape, but there were a few big decisions made. In an attempt to massage the egos of the refs union, the motion to make roughing the passer reviewable was rejected. It doesn't matter. We all knew it was going to be like reviewing pass interference a few years ago, where only a play or two was overturned and blatant PI wasn't because reasons. You will, however, see more potential ref ball and players with the number 0 on the field. There will also be no gradual cuts down to the final roster in the preseason from 90 players, which should keep starters fresh for a probable wave of injuries in week 2 of the season. Speaking of changes that no one wants, there's a chance that Thursday Night Football will have flex scheduling. It's more than likely going to be up for vote in May, and would give teams at least 15 days notice of a change from Sunday to Thursday. This would be terrible for the game, but remember, the dollar is what drives the NFL. TV rights fees are far more important to the league than the fans, and we all know it. It'll probably be reality barring a miracle. On to the NFC's moves. Carolina is at a crossroads. The rebuild has gone more than sideways, especially after several failed QB experiments and Matt's disastrous rule. David Tepper knows he needs to make a splash to get back to relevance. And there's only one way to do that. Get the first overall pick. It cost them a shit ton to get, including DJ Moore, but if they hit on this pick, it'll be worth that price in gold itself. To shelter their new golden goose, enjoy this mentor and quality red rifle. Plus Adam Thielen and DJ Chark as respectable receiving options. Not to mention Miles Sanders to most likely replace Christian McCaffrey with efficiency. And adding Von Bell and Shai Tuttle for the defense, it's not bad work. I dare say it's been a relatively successful offseason that should set them up for life. Unless they salivate over the hot new quarterback of the week in Anthony Richardson and rush him to play. Or do they just trade down to another desperate quarterback-hungry team?
First pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama.
It had been mocked for weeks. It was all but confirmed, and now it's official. The Carolina Panthers have their hopeful future of the franchise. Bryce Young is the new age model of NFL quarterback. A guy who would have been scoffed at a decade ago for being undersized, but oozes upside at this level. Carolina didn't trade everything but the kitchen sink just to watch this guy flop. Bryce will get every chance to prove his talent to the league. He's dealt with immense pressure at Alabama, but will his size allow him to hold up at the next level? I'm gonna say yes, but this is the NFL. The rule of law has been overthrown by the Fourth Reich, and the only way to do that is with patience and precision. Bryce Young is the future of the franchise, and he's being thrown into the fire for maximum exposure. They threw a lot at Chicago to get him. Hopefully he'll become what they've been missing since Super Cam. It's a year of development, there's no denying that reality. There have to be strides taken, but it's not at a critical juncture just yet. Nurture Bryce into the system and don't put too much on his plate just yet. A lot of teams tend to make that mistake. It's too early to tell with them. Time will tell if Carolina has made the right choices or not. This is the weakest NFC as a whole I've seen in a long time. We've gone from Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, and more to Jalen Hurts and maybe some other things. This is going to lead to some wonky results, I know it. First off, I believe there's a repeat winner in the NFC East. Philly takes it thanks to their offense. Sorry, Dallas. The NFC North, I'm going to kill myself in the future for it, but I'm picking Detroit. I think the Lions do it this year. Think that's crazy? I have Atlanta winning the NFC South. The only other serious contender here is New Orleans, and I don't trust them to stay healthy. NFC West, all things considered, is Seattle's to lose. This could change if Bosa plays and Purdy stays healthy, so I have them in a wildcard spot. The other two slots go to Dallas and Minnesota. As I said, though, the final spots are anyone's guess. And that's the majesty of the game itself. Enough talk. Let's get to the football. Welcome to the NFL, rookie. Bryce Young will get harsh lessons thrown at him with rapid speed. Even on his first touchdown pass, where Hayden Hurst chucks it into the crowd in a Madden animation. The rest will be sniped from the air by Jesse Bates. Multiple times, if we might add. Today, we ask a long-debated question. Can you win a football game without competent quarterback play? This technically could be answered by either team, but it's correct for Atlanta. You can thank the overhauled defense and Bijan Robinson becoming Superman and carrying the offense. Tyler Algier did as well, which is going to frustrate the living hell out of fantasy football owners everywhere. You think Arthur Smith really gives a shit about that, though? You got the win. That's all that matters. This was one of the games of our time. Supposedly, two teams came together to pretend to play football before an audience of hostages. There was allegedly entertainment. I personally liken it to watching a videotape involving a cursed ring. We're all going to die in 7 days. Bryce Young will most likely be doing so soon. Dude's all but playing a naked run of Dark Souls on his first go-around. A touchdown in this game wasn't scored until late in the third, thanks to the Saints moving heaven and earth to do so. With the Panthers unable to do shit, congratulations, New Orleans! You get another insanely ugly win where the offense looks terrible, barring a couple of splash plays once again. Can we just pretend this game never happened? My brain is already fried from all the shit that's happened this week. Welcome back to the home of the 12s. Carolina, it's only going to get harder as Bryce Young's naked run of Dark Souls has hit a few snags. You'll have to settle for an old red rifle collecting dust in storage to take you anywhere. Seattle's without a good chunk of their secondary, so Andy Dalton will hold his own and try his best to will his corpse to anything resembling a win. Unfortunately, it's a one-dimensional attack. Seattle's, on the other hand, took a bit to get started, but will pick apart their opposition's defense with precision and patience. Slowly whittle them down, weaken their resolve, then strike for the kill. K9 was the star of the show in this one. Panthers unable to stop him or anything after they ran out of gas. It wasn't the prettiest win, but Seattle does enough to pull off the dub. Carolina just couldn't keep up in the end. Now, only if the Seahawks would gain some consistency, they'll be good to go. I can hear everyone screaming at me to call this a tank bowl, but I argue this is far more of a choke bowl. Know why? Kirk Cousins threw yet another interception in the red zone. It was taken all the way back for a 99-yard pick six. Know how it gets worse? It happened again just outside the red zone. Time to bring out the same tired tropes about the Vikings, right? You haven't seen Carolina much this year, have you? They're making this a lot harder than it has to be on themselves. It's not that Bryce Young isn't just looking like a deer in headlights in this offense, it's that he's pretty much 1 against 11. I don't know if it's Bryce or the schematics or that shitty O-line they have, but the Panthers can do nothing against a weak defensive unit. In fact, the Vikings defense just made Young undergo his traditional brutal fumble return for a defensive touchdown. In a game where both teams repeatedly tripped over themselves to move the football, Minnesota finally realized they have Justin Jefferson and took the lead. It would not be relinquished. Even as Carolina gets to the red zone with time winding down, they hold? The Vikings didn't blow a game for once? This is the most shocking revelation of the week. I feel like I've experienced a break in the system. When you're a top prospect in the NFL, you're usually stuck in shitty situations. Bryce Young went from roughly the NCAA All-Star team to the football equivalent of Major League. We need to have some serious conversations about the Panthers. How has Ike Ekwonu and the O-line regressed this badly? How has Frank Reich gone from a quality coach to a washed-up bum in 2 seasons? Is David Tepper meddling in team affairs that much? And why is Carolina not getting any credit for being one of the biggest shit shows in the league? Charlotte's a hub for transplants. And apparently any talent that players have flies out the first chance it gets. Their defense is solid, but if they're out on the field for long stretches of time, of course Detroit's going to eventually break them. The Lions are for real. And they were in the same boat as you for a long time, Carolina. I'd start by wondering how to avoid handing Caleb Williams to Chicago with the first you're giving them. Easy win for the Lions. Well done. Miami's bored of the standard blowouts. Carolina's pretty much lolcow the team, so why not add a touch of a challenge? Don't show up in the first quarter. Gift them a 14-point handicap. The Dolphins need to be kept on their toes, and this is the way to do it. Once the restrictions ended, Miami rolled up their sleeves and rolled over the Panthers like the shit show they are. How much more can you simplify the offense, Mr. Reich? It's not really Bryce, it's the shitty line in front of him. And almost everything else. They can only watch in awe as Tyreek burns their secondary repeatedly. And then get flagged for taunting and fined for the awesome celebration. This game went from competitive to over in about as much time as the Dolphins' offense takes to rev into overdrive. The secret is that it doesn't take long at all. Miami, I personally wouldn't recommend getting into this handicap against other teams you play. They won't be as dead on the inside as the Panthers are. The battle of the number 1 and 2 picks in the draft. CJ Stroud may be showing promise, but Bryce Young has been sent to die in Charlotte. Things are getting a bit dire, and Frank Reich has voluntarily relinquished play-calling duties at gunpoint. Considering all we've seen in the mess that Carolina is right now, the Texans should be putting their offense in cruise control and driving to an easy win. However, nothing is ever easy. Regardless of what they attempt, Houston can never shake off the bloodsucker on their body. Self-inflicted wounds and an offense that can't get off the ground most drives gives Carolina a chance only down by 1. Their defense is still pretty good though, so it's to be somewhat expected. What isn't expected is Bryce and the Panthers running off a drive at their own 9-yard line. Young flashes the talent that made him a first overall pick, eating up shitloads of clock and holding off the Hounds of War for their first win on the year. Wait, the Panthers won. What the hell? Special shout out to Tavier Thomas for committing 3 straight penalties to end the game. 2008 Lions and 2017 Browns popped the champagne bottles. An 0-17 team will not usurp you this year. One of the worst kept secrets in football was that Frank Reich really wanted CJ Stroud as his quarterback. Owner David Tepper allegedly meddled in team affairs and forced them to draft Bryce Young instead. The real secret is that while Stroud has done amazingly in Houston, he probably would have struggled in this shit pile as well. Young's stubborn first-time naked run of Dark Souls will continue on, despite being stuck on the Asylum Demon. Bryce, like many rookie QBs, is trying to do way too much and overthinking everything. He's forcing throws instead of seeing the field. Indianapolis merely had to punish easy mistakes for maximum damage. Bryce threw 3 touchdowns on the day. What incredible chemistry he had with Kenny Moore. Only problem is Kenny isn't on the Panthers. Colts offense didn't even have to do all that much. Bryce was generating production for them. All but a free victory in their book. And they'll take it. I'm under the belief that it's more on the Panthers shit show than Young, but right now, not looking too good. Same goes for that first you gave the Bears for him. Good luck on Thursday. Couldn't we just simulate the shit pile on Madden instead? I'm a depraved enough soul to enjoy Super Tank Bowl, but the common fan would find this to be torture. The Bears scraped by because they have some semblance of a pulse on offense. And Carolina is somehow even shittier than I thought them to be. Their only big production on the night was on a punt return. Jesus Christ himself would cast the Panthers off for being a blight. This scheming by Frank Reich is absolutely terrible. Bryce may be getting flack, but no QB could do well on it. This is anti-offense. A black hole void of anything resembling life. Chicago didn't even do anything special, just allow DJ Moore and Deontay Foreman to get revenge by existing. Carolina's defense is destroyed by injury. It's gotten so bad that Blake Martinez was revived from scamming people on Pokemon cards. Chicago wins and they win even more. They have Carolina's first-round pick. Scott Fitterer made that trade but rejected 2 firsts for Brian Burns a year ago? Makes about as much sense as Eddie Pinheiro kicking a 59-yarder when his career long was 56. All you need to know about this game is that the Panthers were preparing to go into a silent count due to being flooded by Cowboys fans. The Panthers were at home this week. Frank Reich, moving deck chairs around a sinking ship, has taken over play-calling duty again. It's a fucking shit pile over there. Watching this group flop around like a fish out of water is great comedy for the rest of us. Meet the Panthers, where actual points are scored on offense, then immediately followed by a kickoff out of bounds, where great third down stops are undone by unnecessary roughness penalties. 3 times in the first half, twice on one damn drive, where Bryce Young is sentenced to die behind whatever the fuck this is supposed to be. Under this shit show, Dallas merely had to exist and they would thrive. A standard cowboy meal of feasting on a shitty opponent. The only thing cooking in Charlotte is another pick 6 by Deron Bland. Hearing from Chicago is endless celebration, as a number 1 pick is all but theirs. Again. This game happened? I thought it was banished to an endless void. It's kind of how it played out. An endless void. Plays just happened. Carolina, with a supposed all-star coaching staff, only made the Titans' defense look like all-stars. The very least, we get to see King Henry rumble against an opponent again. An increasingly rare sight these days. It was 17-3 Tennessee at half, and it was pretty much over from there. Second half just kinda existed, I guess. Carolina was only down by 7 points, but their offense, like most weeks, just shut down. Be awfully nice if they didn't keep on doing their drives with holding penalties, or continuing to kill Bryce with sacks. You do realize you lost to a team that went 2 for 11 on third down, right? Titans barely lifted a finger and the Panthers were still ruined. Frank Reich isn't just lost, he's destroyed out there. Fitterer is fiddling with himself as he burns draft picks, and David Tepper is pissed after the game. If you want somewhere to start, I'd recommend a hard look in a mirror. The mirror must have told Tepper that he needed to fire more people. To be fair, Frank Reich is a terrible fit in Carolina. His schemes are horrifically bad. The team has flat out regressed throughout the season, and he has nothing to fix it. Bryce Young went from the supposed most NFL-ready QB in the draft to the most ready to be flung into a fire. The offense is a train wreck, and the defense is a hospital ward. Carson Wentz didn't just break himself, he apparently broke Reich as well. He did want CJ Stroud instead of Bryce after all. It was long doomed, and they didn't want to stretch this any further. The Fourth Reich implodes on itself. Again. Everyone and their mother knows the main issue on the team isn't Reich, but sure let Tepper think that he isn't it. He'll fire Scott Fitterer at the end of the year and fling money around at any poor saps that want to deal with this trash heap. Who doesn't want to traverse through no first-round pick, a roster in disarray, and a meddlesome owner? Too bad money can't fix the team finding out about the firing on social media. At this point, I think Panthers fans might be missing Jerry Richardson. Do you know how bad you have to be to think that? This was a game that fit Tank Division like a glove. Two teams in the middle of death spirals clinging on to dear life. At least that's the case for the Buccaneers. Carolina's just dead. Don't even try to resuscitate them, this is a benevolent form of mercy. It's been a good bit since I've seen an offense so pathetic. Most teams will have some form of inept blocking, no receiver separation, and middle school scheming. It's very rare to have it all happen at once. We found the fucking Holy Grail. Tampa Bay was doing their damnedest to lose this game. They were like a dad trying to underhand a ball to a 2-year-old, but Carolina kept whiffing at these soft tosses. These are the Panthers we've come to laugh at. The outcasts that everyone fucks with on a daily basis. It'd be sad if they didn't do every single thing to themselves. The Bucs had lost 6 of 7, but the failure of their opponent was too strong. We hunger for blood. This is Carolina's version of the first overall pick. Good Lord, what a game of football we've just witnessed. In climate-controlled conditions, both passing attacks not only sputtered and crashed to the ground, they set themselves on fire after the fact and ran around in circles. Bryce Young is completely broken, shattered into a million pieces and scattered by the winds of misery itself. This dude literally can't do anything. His offense isn't shitting it, he's missing wide-open targets. Repeatedly. Even if Carolina got 200 yards of rushing in garbage time, the whole damn offensive philosophy's in disarray. Wernicke ain't got nothing on the chaos taking place here. Now, if you simply scoreboard watch, you'd say it was an easy Saints win. It wasn't. New Orleans' offense is as much of a travesty as usual. Derek Carr played through several nagging injuries, and it's making him look even worse. Are we gonna talk about how he was averaging 2 yards an attempt in the third quarter? Even his own linemen are going off on how useless he is. You should be thankful Bryce is taking the heat off him. New Orleans was so bad they had to touch over 200 yards of offense. The Saints more or less won because the Panthers are sludge run off from the old Coke plant. Yet despite how shit they are, they can still make the playoffs in the god-awful NFC. Another team that frustrates me to no end. Feel the excitement in the air for this pivotal Tank Division matchup. Tickets available for less than a Subway sandwich, and still the fans are socially distancing themselves from the stadium. Pouring rain, 2 shitty football teams, one led by the new age Dan Snyder. They should have honestly been paying people to come to this shit. There's nothing that makes my depraved heart swoon more than endless punting. It was entering true greatness. Until the Falcons ruined it with a long touchdown drive. This organization fucks up everything, and I hate it with every fiber of my being. It's only 7-3, but the Panthers are so useless that it feels like 28-3. this were any other team, this game would long be over. But you forget that this is Atlanta, their QB is garbage, and their head coach probably has an intellectual disability. Implosions are to be expected. Oops, Bijan fumbled the football. That means Arthur's taking away his ball-carrying privileges. Carolina can't do much of anything with it, but they do kick a field goal. Now, all Atlanta has to do is keep the ball safe as they move down the field, and the game is all but won. Do you seriously expect the Panthers to score a touchdown? You underestimate Desmond Ritter's ability to be shit.
Here comes Ritter. He was just able to get away from the pressure, but he throws a pick. Taken away by Xavier Woods.
Taylor Heineke's got his flaws, but he sure as hell wasn't throwing that kind of puke. Using your best weapons on offense? Preparing for the elements? What are you, crazy? The defense is simply going to buckle and fall to shit on some of the most obvious ducks that Bryce Young can throw in these miserable conditions. Carolina's in field goal range. The Falcons are choking again. Jesus Christ, don't just fire Arthur Smith, throw him in the ocean with concrete shoes.
We'll try to boot the Panthers to a win and deliver a huge blow to the playoff hopes of the Falcons and give Chris Tabor his first win as an NFL head coach, and he's done it.
You lost to the Panthers. This team fucking sucks. I had them winning the division. What the fuck is wrong with me? This team couldn't even beat a 2-year-old in a game of Connect 4. What the fuck is going on? Jesus Christ. Solidly performing quarterback and a team in dire need of a win to stay alive against the literal worst team in football. This should be a relatively easy recap where I make shitty jokes about how bad Carolina is for 30 seconds. Well, it should be, but I can have no respite from the horrors of bullshit. You see, despite Green Bay having free reign on offense against the bottom feeder, Bryce Young is cooking a 5-star dinner. Yes, Bryce Young. He who has looked absolutely overmatched in a system the ADL finds offensive and distasteful is looking like his first overall pedigree for the first time all season. We know damn well the domestic terrorist responsible for such a travesty. Vanilla Joe Barry's gifting endless presents to the Panthers offense. And it's allowing them to stay in the game, despite Jordan Love and the Packers crushing those before them. A 14-point lead just before the fourth quarter, Vanilla Joe Barry's on the case. Watch as he molds and calls for a train wreck on back-to-back crucial drives, endlessly surrendering yardage like it's nothing at all. And before you know it, the game's tied. Why didn't Barry get fired after last week's shit show again? He's the defensive equivalent of Matt Canada. Good news for Green Bay, you're playing the Panthers, so no one's really going to notice some of the questionable calls that go your way. Off to the red zone to kick a field goal to put it away. Joe Barry was eager to let his opponent get to field goal range and crunch, but lo and behold, they couldn't get the spike down in time. Allegedly. Once again, nobody's really going to complain since it's the Panthers and their fans stopped giving a shit weeks ago. Will the shit stain of Barry finally be thrown in the toilet? Probably not. Oh boy, Jacksonville is in a death spiral and it's only getting worse. Trevor Lawrence has been playing injured for weeks. And the Jags finally realize the best option is to let the dude rest. CJ Beathard is now the man under center and it's as dire as it looks. Thank the good Lord above that this is their free space game. They've been gifted a matchup against an insult to football. Even in Duval's brutally weakened state, it's still no contest. That says a hell of a lot more about Carolina, for being honest. Just cutting base roughly the past 15 weeks of Sportsballs and calling a recap. Is there any point in going into detail? If we do, you get serious concerns about Bryce Young at this level and a move that may have set the team back half a decade. Considering he's the one that meddled, David Tepper would rather not think about reality. We'll just chuck a drink at some Jags fans instead. The most resistance Carolina showed all game. Jags, take the win, run, and don't look back. You have the Titans next week in control of your own destiny. Breathe and pray. Trust in Josh Allen and the spirits on high.
Calling both games.
I finally have good news for the Carolina Panthers. It's over. The season from hell can no longer hurt you. Only the memory of it will bully you from within for time eternal. Wonder why no one in Charlotte gives a shit about this franchise? This game is an example of why. It's a fucking comedy sketch that Monty Python would have written up. Witness how you get a well-orchestrated pass from Bryce to DJ Chark, screaming down the far sideline, diving for the end zone, and then fumbling the ball away just before he crosses the plane. Tampa recovers. Don't worry, it's by one failure, get more free today. Experience this great running play by Raheem Blackshear, sprinting for a touchdown, only to be undone by offensive holding. And then Bryce is strip sacked on the very next play, not scoring a single goddamn point in the final 2 games, reiterating absolute failure. Scott Fitterer's obviously losing his job, but you wish that David Tepper could be fired as well. He's the head of this cancerous hydra, and until you take him out, the Panthers are screwed. Tampa Bay played down to competition so hard you'd think they were in the third circle of hell. But Carolina's just so bad that they won by all but default. Congrats to the Buccaneers on winning Tank Division, said no one whatsoever. The good news is that it's over. Do I really need to go over it in detail? I did that in a vid a few weeks ago. Frank Reich and the supposed all-star coaching staff was merely a dream team of shit. Bryce Young was systematically destroyed behind a god-awful offensive line and a receiving core that got no separation. The defense was simply beheaded by the injury gods. A franchise that had a drink thrown in its face every game. Kinda like Tepper, if we're being honest. Hey, someone had to inherit the Dan Snyder role. David's making a strong case for it being him, but he's got a long way to go. This situation is FUBAR. No one wants to work for an arrogant, meddling asshole, and his hiring choices in Reich and Fitterer were absolutely terrible. There's a reason why they were given the X. Hot coaches aren't going to come here, so your GM is the assistant to the shitty GM before in Dan Morgan, and your head coach is Dave Canales. He of reviving Baker Mayfield from the abyss. Dave came here because he got a 6-year deal. I give him 2 years. Maybe 3. Things may be perilous, but they did have the worst record this season, which leads to rewards all their own.
You have your first round pick this year, right?